Scott from the Bass Tank. Today we are going to install the new Garmin SpyPole on my boat. We have everything laid out here. You've got the SpyPole itself. We've already tied the power cable in. This will go 12 to 36 volts. We're going to tie this into the 36 volt circuit because this is just basically a miniature trolling motor. So looking at the deck, all the things, this is everything that came in the box of the SpyPole. We've got an extra clamshell down here for the network cable in case you had to cut it off. We've got some cable management brackets right here. This is the actual mount for the SpyPole. It already comes with the 3 bolts. We've got wire loom in here with collars. This is the included heading sensor. This is the foot pedal mount that would mount to the deck of the boat. This is the actual foot pedal itself. This is the piece I told you guys about in a previous video that slides into the bottom of the pole to lock everything into place. The LiveScope transducer cable is going to slide through that right there. It comes with a kickstand that mounts to it. You'll cut that down to length right here. And then inside, this is the different brackets for the for the 62, 34, and the 32. And then this guy right here would mount to the bottom of the SpyPole. And this is what your LiveScope would mount to. If you're not running the 360. If you're running a 360, we've got to use a different bracket. That is everything that comes in the box with the SpyPole itself. Now, if we're going to run the 360, which I am going to do, we've got the 360. We did an unboxing on that. This is everything put together. We've got the dog bone. We've got the 360. This is the bracket we're going to need to be able to run our LiveScope transducer on with a 360 because the 360 mounts to the bottom and then the LiveScope mounts up further up on the shaft. So again, it comes with a 62, 32, and 34 brackets, all the associated hardware necessary. We're going to go through this step by step and show you guys how to install it physically as well as the setup all the way out to the water. Stay tuned as we go through this step-by-step process of the installation of the SpyPole. Continuing the installation of the SpyPole, the first thing I've got to do is my Garmin Force here. I need to remove this kickstand, set it out of the way. Then you've got to take your SpyPole mount and decide whether you want it on the outside or you want it on the inside. So it will mount either direction. For my boat, I'm running Bass Cat links and I'm going to mount this on the outside. Now, the other reason for mounting on the outside is when the trolling motor is deployed, this will put it pretty much dead center with the keel of the boat. So that's going to be my preference. You need to decide for your boat setup how you want to orient that. Something to keep in mind of if you mount this on the outside, if you've got a cover, your cover may have to be modified. Now, the great thing about it is with a quick release, you can always take it off and set it on your deck. So what we're going to do, we're just going to line these holes up. We're going to thread it in. We're going to move on to the next step. Now that we've got our bracket mounted onto the Force, we're just going to drop this bad boy in place. So as you can see, it's got the slots right here. They're going to line up. We're going to pull this pin. Slots in place. That simple. Take it off. I pull the pin, lift up, and I can sit on the deck of the boat. The next step, take my cables and start routing them up through the top up here. Before we do that, we want to take this top cap off so we can have a nice clean sweep. All right, so we've got our SpyPole mounted. We're ready to start feeding cables. Now the question is, which one do I do first? And I can tell you, if you run the 360 cable up first, there's not enough room for this guy. But if you run the LiveScope transducer cable up through the shaft first, you can then push the 360. Now, what I want to show you here is you can do the whole rope and pull everything else. But if you just feed this nice and smooth and give it ever so slight twist, you don't want to damage the cable, but just keep it moving. This will feed nice and smooth, as you can see as it's going through. Our cable come out the end. Now, when we get done there, grab my 360 cable. So now it's going to go in and it's going to go on top of that. And once you get started, it'll push nice and smooth. So LiveScope transducer first, 360 second. If you hang up, you can see I can actually push both of them at the same time and my 360 is out the top. So LiveScope transducer cable first, 360 second, it'll go nice and smooth and we're ready to start mounting the transducers and the other hardware on the SpyPole. Now that we've got our cables fed through here, we've got this rubber piece right here that fits in there. Now, our 360 is going to come directly from the bottom, so this is just for the LiveScope coming out because our LiveScope is actually going to be mounted right here. So this is notched, so we're just going to hook it over the end right here, and then it's grooved right there. Just get it started, feed it up into place. Now our LiveScope is secure right there. We're ready to finish pulling the cables up, secure the 360, secure the LiveScope, and then work on our cable management as we work back through the boat. So we've got our 360 transducer right here. Right here you can see this bolt hole. This is actually keyed to fit into there. So if we come right here, and it might be handy to have another set of hands, but this can only go one way. This lines up right there, it goes over the rubber piece. Then we've got our handy dandy little hex nut, and then we've got our 5mm Allen head that goes on the back side to secure that in place. We're continuing on the SpyPole and we're getting ready to mount the LiveScope transducer, and we need to stop and take just a minute and understand what we're putting on here. So I'm going to go with a 34. So I chose my 34 disc and we will apply that. But before I do that, if you're running a 32, because the way it attaches, we actually have to take a little screwdriver and peel this, just lightly pry this off to come off, because the 32 will actually mount from the other side. So we've got a 34, and what we're going to do is I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's little letters right here for down, forward, and perspective, and they line up here. So this has got a sticky back to it, and what's going to happen is we're going to rotate this in, and I want to do this, what I call a dry run, before we actually adhere it to make sure everything's lined up. So right there, that would fit in, and you can see I'm lined up with forward, down. And so if I loosen this, that would be in perspective. And then if I turn this around, you can see my transducer would be notched in perspective. So that would be perspective. And then I would make my adjustments on the side to set my depth. That is the mount for the LiveScope that I need to set up before I actually put it on the SpyPole itself. So now we're ready to actually attach the mount to the SpyPole. And I want to show you something. If I just slowly rotate this, that rubber grommet we had earlier, inside this mount, there's a groove right there. And so this actually just fits right into it. And this will mount on top of it. Now I'm left-handed, so as I've told you guys previously, I like my LiveScope to be on the left side. If you're right-handed, you can simply go to the right side to flip it. That's up to you. So I'm going to mount this just like this. 5mm hex screws here. Finger tight, and then we will adjust our height when we get that ready to tighten down. So we went ahead and installed our bracket here for the LiveScope. It attaches the same way for the LVS34 with the knob right there. And you can see we're in forward mode. Now, something to keep in mind of right here is this cable right now. We haven't secured anything up there, so we still have slack. What we want to do is we actually want to put this in perspective, because that's going to be our most cable required orientation. As you can see, we had a good sweep right there, but let's go ahead and put this in perspective just to confirm everything is good to go right there. So this is the amount of cable that I'm going to want for my perspective, and that will also work in forward as well. So put this back into forward, and now we can start routing the cable. You can see how much of a little bit of a loop we have right there. Now this is free floating in here, so it's not going to be completely secured. So it's going to have some slack, but this is the bare minimum we need to maintain a good sweep for perspective mode as well. So now I've got my LiveScope transducer cable. I got my 360 ran up through the shaft, sticking out of the top. And now we've just got to come feed back through here. But before we do that, we had the wire loom and we've got the rings. We need to put the rings on here first, because this is going to feed through here, but we've got to actually lock these in place. That will help to hold it in the head. So we want to put the small ring on first, feed the LiveScope through, then we can feed the 360. Then we're going to do the big ring because the way this is going to end up working is this is going to drop back in place. So the small ring is actually going to go inside the big ring. Now this is tapered. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I actually did that backwards. So this is, you're going to want to watch that. Right now the taper is running the opposite direction. So this is a good point to stop and make sure you align these properly. So big taper there, taper right there. That's how it's going to drop in. That's how we're going to put this on there. As you can see, it fits on there together, feeds through, and now we're ready to start feeding this through the loom. So we've got our 360 mounted, we've got our LiveScope mounted, cables are routed up through the top. It's time to come back to the head. So this is where those rings came into play and that wire loom that was included. Now, if you notice on these rings, they are tapered. There's just ever so slight taper. I don't know if that shows up in the video, but it's very obvious whenever you see them in person. Now, the way this works here, we've got this end. The other end of the loom has this little bungee on it. We don't need that for the time being. We're gonna start on the end that's cut. What you're gonna do, you wanna open this up and you wanna slide the big ring inside of it. You're just gonna feed this down there where you got a nice little distance. It's gonna look something like that. Then we're gonna take this again with the taper down and we're gonna feed it through. That's gonna be on the outside and then we're gonna lock that into place. I'm just gonna push that in. You see it's gonna lock in place just like that. And then just take your finger and invert that. Now we've got a nice clean edge right there on the outside, and now we can start feeding our cables. Just like when we went up the shaft of the motor of the SpyPole, the LiveScope transducer cable goes first, and then our 360 will follow. And we're just gonna feed this through all the way up to the top. So as I pull these out here on the end, something I want to point out real quick. You can see that this 34 has no collar on it. The GT360 has no collar as well. If you've got a 34 that from the factory had the solid collar, you're gonna have to cut that, but that's why they included the replacement collar with it. If you try to leave the collar on, it will not feed through everything we've done. So this is very critical that you see that right there. Now, as I come out the other end of this loom, this is another piece that I think is something that you'll be frustrated if you don't pay attention to. This piece right here, we actually want to go on the inside of those so that whenever we get done pulling this in, we can actually cinch that down and give that a little good snug fit. We're going to finish feeding this up here and then drop it through and start routing the cables through the boat. Now that we've got our wire loom fed all the way up to the top, we need to feed our cables back down through here. Again, with the LiveScope transducer, come through first and then 360 to trail behind. So now we're just going to feed this all the way through. We're going to take up all of our slack and then we're going to feed the wire loom through here as well. And this is where you want to create a little bit of a bend up here that's a nice sweep. We don't want to pinch the cables or anything like that. Feed the wire loom through there. And then from this other side, I'll show you how we want to leave the wire loom. So as we get close to the end of the wire loom, what we want to do is just pull this around here, and that ring is what's going to keep that tight in there. So we want to make sure we keep a little bit of a loop in there. But remember, we've got a top cap that feeds on here, so this can't be too crazy. So we just want to feed that down in just like that. Lay the cable side by side. So we've got a nice bend radius right there. It's secure. The top cap will go on there. We've got a nice clean coming out of the bottom of the top of the SpyPole. Now that we've got our SpyPole mounted, we've got the transducers mounted on the bottom, cables running up through the top. We need to make sure that as this rotates, we've got plenty of slack up here and we don't get caught up in the trolling motor. Now, something I want to address right now, guys, this is the 49-inch shaft SpyPole on a 50-inch force. I wanted to do it this way just to see if we could do it. I will tell you that it's going to work just fine, but I'm going to prefer my 42. For the purpose of this install, we're going to continue with the 49. But you see how far this wraps around. That's our physical limitation. It cannot go any further than this right here. It's got a good wrap right here. We're not in any tension. These cables are just laying on top of each other inside the loom. Let's go back the other way. That is fully mechanically as far as it can go that way as well. So now we're just ready to route our cables across and down. And then the last thing we got to do, put the kickstand on, install the dog bone, and then we're going to be ready to wire this back into the boat. So now that we've got all of our cables routed, SpyPole is physically mounted, we're finishing up down here before we finalize the cable installs, actually putting them back into the boat and connecting to the unit. We need to install this dog bone. Now this comes with the 360. So this actually comes in the box with a 360, so there's no reason to buy it externally unless you just want one with just a SpyPole only. Now we've already installed this bracket on the Force motor. Now something I want to show you guys, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but inside these brackets, it actually says SpyPole, meaning it goes on the SpyPole and it goes on the Force. The Force is labeled Force, SpyPole labeled SpyPole. So you remember that little baggie I told you not to lose? That's where this is very important. It's got the little screws that we will use to attach the bracket to the SpyPole. Now, if you'll notice, it only goes one way. It comes around here and then it's going to lock in place. Now, something else I want you to keep in mind of, you see that only half of it is threaded. So when I put this on here, I want to line up the opposite threads with threads. That way the bolt goes through. And so one's going to come in this way, the other's going to come that way. We're going to install this real quick, and then we'll finalize the installation of the dog bone. So now that we've got the dog bone clipped on, we've got this guy cinched down on the SpyPole. We just got to finish latching it in place. Again, we want that good snap. You hear that? Clear the tab. So now this is in place. This doesn't go anywhere. There's still a little bit of ability to slide up and down on that. So we want to just go make sure that it's snugged up. It's not going to completely tighten down, and that's okay. So now we've got the stabilizer on here. This allows this to spin freely this way, and the trolling motor still is able to operate independently. Guys, now we're ready to go put on the kickstand and then hook this bad boy up and get her on the water. So right here we've got the dog bone, and we're going to show you how this goes together, but something I wanted to show you as a finished product to keep in mind of is on our Force, we've got this fork. So you have to be mindful of where you install this, because when you stow it, you don't want this hitting on top of it. You do want this low to provide stability, but you don't want it so low that it hits in line with that fork. So just a heads up when you're installing the dog bone in the next video or the next part, just keep that in mind. So as we've continued on with the installation of the SpyPole, we're about done as far as the physical installation goes. If you guys remember at the beginning of this, I removed the kickstand for the Force with these 3 bolts, replaced it with the SpyPole bracket. Now we just installed the kickstand for the actual SpyPole, but doubles as the Force. Now they give you this nice long kickstand and you have to cut it to length. Now this is grooved inside here, and so there's a cap on it that'll fit in tight. There's 4 bolts on the back side that will fit in place. This guy right here, you can see there's one of these that is bigger than the other. This is for the Garmin Force Pro handle, and the smaller one is for the original Garmin Force. So that is your new keeper for that. It will actually go on the other side as well. There's a secondary groove on the back side, so you can choose what fits your boat the best as to where you put that. But cut this to length. You don't want it so tight that you can't release this, but you don't want this bouncing up and down. So you cut it to length. Each boat's a little bit different. That is in fact the kickstand for the Force and the SpyPole. In order for the SpyPole to operate to its fullest capacity, we've got to be able to use this guy right here. This is the heading sensor that's included. Now, if you've already got a Garmin heading sensor on there, you can utilize that for sure. But if not, this is the guy you need. Now, this needs to be in a place without a lot of interference, so we can't just completely tuck it underneath the units. But we're looking at probably mounting this right back here, nice flat spot. Looking forward, this will pair remotely, so all you need is power, but it's a wireless heading sensor. So this is a SpyPole heading sensor. Once we get it installed, we're gonna be ready to go back together and get this on the water. After we've mounted the SpyPole, we need to actually pair it to the unit before we go to the water. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over here to home, come to settings. Just like we pair the Garmin Force trolling motor, we're gonna come into communications, wireless devices, and the SpyPole mount. Now, this pole was already connected at one point, so what we're gonna do is we're going to power it on here. and this will automatically connect if it's already been previously connected. But what you'll do is you'll press the power button on the SpyPole 3 times to get the blue light, and then you'll hit start and it'll be searching for a SpyPole. Once it finds that SpyPole, the light's gonna turn green and it's gonna say that it's now connected. So now it's connected. Now we can add our toolbar back to the screen. So you can see my 1B right here. Until you actually connect the SpyPole to the chart plotter, you're not gonna have the option to get this toolbar. The way you would put it on here is you'd hit the menu, options, overlays, and it come into overlay down here. And then, do I want this on the top or bottom? So right here you see top bar is already selected to SpyPole mount, and you could actually put it on the bottom as well if you wanted to. See, that's identical right there. Now the different features you have will show up right here. Right now, our Spy Scan is the only option because we don't have this calibrated. We're going to finish up that setup later on in the video. We're continuing the installation of the SpyPole. As you can tell, we're on the water, so we're getting ready to actually go through the setup. Right here, I've got my foot pedal, I've got the heading sensor, and there's a SpyPole. We're going to walk through pairing each one of those and then finishing the setup so we can go use all the features of the SpyPole. We're going to start with a heading sensor. Now, you can do this in your shop. You don't have to be on the water to pair this. We're here, so we're going to go through that process. We'll start with a heading sensor. There's a button on it. Like anything Garmin, if you guys are familiar with that process pairing, we're going to press it 3 times and we're going to get a blue light on it. We're also going to press the power button on the SpyPole 3 times to turn the light blue, and then it will turn green when they're successfully paired. The next thing we need to do is we need to pair the SpyPole with our Garmin Force trolling motor so we can use this SpyLink. Put the SpyPole in pairing mode. Then our Garmin Force, 1, 2, 3, it's going to turn blue. When that turns green, we know that those two are paired together and ready to continue to the next step. Now we need to pair the foot pedal. We'll put the SpyPole back in pairing mode. And now we come to the foot pedal, and these top 2 buttons right here, we press them at the same time 3 times. 1, 2, 3. We get our blue light. And as soon as it turns green, goes off, we are now paired with the SpyPole. Now that we've got all of our devices paired, we've got to go through and now set up the SpyPole and our device position so it knows where it's at in the Garmin environment. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up setting the bow offset just like you would with a trolling motor, and it's best to do your Garmin Force at the same time so you can get right behind it and you can actually see that they're in alignment. So what we're going to do on our LiveScope screen, we're going to go down to options, we're going to go SpyPole setup, and then we're going to go to installation. Now under installation, you're going to see this thing called Setup Wizard. This is going to start the whole process of the SpyPole setup. We're going to go to begin, and it's going to tell you different things of how to pair it, but we've already done all that, so we can go ahead and hit next. The first place it's going to give you is how do you want the SpyPole to park? Whenever you stole the trolling motor, what direction you want it to park. Right now, I've actually got it set to go down. That way it kind of keeps it inside the boat and clear. For each boat that you have, your application, you need to decide what is best for you. We're gonna go next. Now we're at the bow offset. This is where I'm telling you I would do this the same time that I do the Garmin Force. So I'm gonna get directly behind it, and I'm gonna set my bow offset of my Garmin Force. I'm gonna set it, and now I'm gonna move to my screen. I'm gonna use the arrows on the screen to adjust this to make sure they're lined up. When they're lined up, I'm gonna hit set bow offset. It's gonna tell me okay, and then we're gonna move on to the next. Now that we've got the bow offset calibrated with the Force, we're gonna hit next. This is gonna ask us what transducers are on the SpyPole. Now, if you've got one LVS34 or one LiveScope transducer on it, it's going to be pretty obvious. But let's say you're running 2, one on the SpyPole, one on the trolling motor. You need to name those because we need to know which one is on the trolling motor and which one's the SpyPole. Here I've got my 360 on the bottom, so I'm going to say yes, I've got it selected. And then my LVS34 is my primary. Make sure the light is green on that button to make sure that your LVS34 is selected and displaying. And then we're gonna hit next. Now that we've got our transducers selected, we're gonna hit next. We're actually getting into the setup wizard now, where we need to tell the SpyPole where it's at in relationship to the boat. So right here, we're gonna select the position of it. And if you read this, it will tell you to use positive values if you're gonna go starboard direction. Now, starboard is right, port is left. So if this was on the right-hand side, I would do a positive however many inches or feet on this side of the boat. Mine is mounted on the port, so I'm gonna say that this is a negative approximately 0.2 feet to the left of the keel of the boat. So I've selected that. I'm gonna enter that data, negative 0.2, because it's less than a foot. I'm gonna hit done. And then I've got to do the stern offset. So I've got to know how far in front of the back of the boat that this actually SpyPole is. This is a 21-foot boat. It's 1 foot in front of it. Now you can measure it. I highly recommend the more accurate you are, the better off you're going to be. But this being a 21-foot boat, 1 foot in front of that gives me at 22 feet right there. As you can see, I've got that set. I'm going to hit back. And now I've got to go into the other device positions. Anything that has a GPS capability or heading, I've got to tell it where it's at. So we're going to go into device position. And as you can see, I've got a whole list. Now, guys, this is where it is critical. Time and time again, I've told you guys to name your units, and this is why. I can see everything, and I can do it from right here. I can also go to each device and do the device position individually. So I'm looking at my list of devices here, and guys, on the top it says built-in. Now, built-in means that the internal built-in position. Think of it like that, as the built-in position. It says the GT56 because that's what's connected via the trolling motor. But in this case, it's just talking about the built-in position. So I need to select this guy, and I need to tell it, just like I told the SpyPole where it was at in relationship to the boat, I've got to tell each device where it is in relationship to the boat. So again, we come in here, it's the same thing, port and starboard, right? So positive values are going to be starboard, negative values are going to be negative. Right here, I'm going to select it. I know that this unit right here, dead center, is about 6 inches, a half a foot, starboard. So it's going to be positive 0.5, positive 0.005, done. Now, where is it in relationship to the back of the boat? The stern. Guys, you're going to see a repeating process here. We're going to do this at every device. We did the SpyPole. The process is the same at every device. Coming from the stern, 20-foot boat. The SpyPole is a foot ahead of it, whereas this is a foot closer to it. So instead of 21 feet, I just select this to be 20 feet. So it is a positive 20 feet. We hit done. And now the water line offset. So now think of this in 3 dimensions, front, back, and up and down as well, left, right, water line. So this is approximately, I'm setting on the water right here, and let's call this positive, because above the water is positive, negative is below the water line, but we're gonna call this 2.5 feet above the water line. This device is now done. So we can go down the list. You can see my 8412, which is this guy right here. I can do that same thing for each device here. I can also go directly to the device. Let me show you how to do that as well. I can continue to add the device positions off of this list, or I can go to the individual devices themselves. So let's just go to right to this 8412. And the way you're going to find that, you're going to go into options, you go into settings, and then go into my vessel. And down here, you're going to see device position. And I'm going to get the same list, but the thing you're going to see different here is instead of the 16 being the built-in, I'm going to see built-in, and that is this unit, right? So let's select the built-in, select it, and let's go from here. So right here, it's showing that it's negative 0.2, meaning it's on the wrong side. So I need to do positive 0.5 because this is approximately 6 inches off the starboard side. The stern offset, it is 20 feet, approximately, well, I'll call it 19. And then the water line, this is definitely not a foot below the water line. Again, this is going to be a positive 2.5 feet above the waterline. This is done. Have to go through every one of these devices, and I can go to the individual device itself, or I can do it directly from this list. We've gone through and set up all of our device positions. One of the final things we need to do is actually calibrate this. So we've got our heading sensor down here. Now I want to let you guys know, if you've got a Garmin heading sensor, or let's say you're running a Lowrance 0.1, an external heading sensor, you can utilize that to use for the SpyPole setup right here, as long as it's connected to the units via NEMA. So since we've got the heading sensor here though, I'm going to show you how to calibrate it. So we're going to go to the next screen, and we're going to go into the wizard to say begin. Now, just like we calibrate everything else, guys, it's 1.5 times turning the boat. So we're going to do that, and then we'll come back. After we calibrate the heading sensor, we can move through the next screens. And one of the final screens it's going to bring you to is, this is the little gesture remote that comes in the box. It's a little button. You can assign the buttons to what you want each one to do, the functions of them. You would just select it right here. I'm okay with this right now. And then we're going to come to the foot pedal. So the foot pedal is the one we showed you earlier. We paired up. Same thing. You've got your steer left, right, but then these top two buttons are configurable to what you want. What I'm going to do is, I've got one set to one view scan. That's the 360. That's what I want to do. But these are the different options you can select. So I'm going to do a one view scan, and then I'm going to have SpyLink. I want that SpyLink to be number 1. And number 2 is the one I'm going to do for the one view scan. After we get done with this, it is complete. We are now ready to go fishing.